Hello, I am Jan from Prague, Czech Republic, and as you can see, we have a lot of snow here today, which makes it a great day to start reviewing and testing Canon R6 Mark II.
And I suggest we start with a bit of action. Animal detection is activated, camera is set to use speed of 40 frames per second, so we can throw a snowball to a distance, so dog called Ivy can start running after it. And you can see on these couple of frames taken directly from the camera what matters most. The ability of the camera to track the dog, even in that very, very complicated weather, is just amazing. And I have to say, I was really, really surprised how easy it is to keep autofocus working well and bring photos like this to life. And obviously, if you want, I can edit that one so you can look to the face of brave dog called Ivy. And again, I believe that little sequence can show you in amazing speed what really matters on Canon R6 Mark II. It's very quick and it has a great autofocusing systems. Let me just tell you what you will find in that video. At the beginning, we'll discuss even further the speed and autofocusing systems of this camera, and we also include a small description of what I found really fantastic, and it's called raw burst. Then we'll turn to another chapter which will cover the basics of how to set things on that camera and how to operate it. And at the last part, which you might actually find very interesting as well, we'll just go into the streets of Prague and my native Czech Republic to see how that camera actually works in real life. And maybe at the beginning, just let me to sum up that there are three key regions where we can expect some progress over the first generation of this camera. It is the sensor, which is obviously improved and has a slightly bigger resolution. Then it is autofocusing, and again, it's, as you have already seen, a huge leap forward. And the third is, as we mentioned as well, the speed of the camera, which is capable of 40 frames per second. Maybe just a real-life example of a tram running through the streets of Prague, and believe or not, this is a sequence of 96 photos. It would probably be able to take even more, but I think this is just enough to see what can happen if we just want to record for maybe 2-3 seconds. One more example of the same thing, which I personally find even more fascinating. Once more, the dog called Ivy, and once more photos directly from the camera, from the inside of it, and the ability of the camera to track the eyes of the animal are just amazing, I believe. Well, just maybe a small note that the photo is a little bit blurred, but as you can see, it's 1/1000th of a second, so it would not be blurred if you take a real photo. So what matters here is that the autofocusing just does a great job of keeping the eyes of the dog sharp and focused. And again, if we start recording, start shooting under these conditions, again, the results are so great. Why I am so impressed by that? No, well, because it's a black dog on white snow under very tough conditions, and results are, I believe, really amazing. So, another summary of why I was really surprised what that camera is capable of. Well, we've just seen a black dog on white snow, so why don't I just show you white dog on white snow? Simply, this is another example of what the camera does. The dog is moving very quickly, but still it works great. It is able to detect the eye, and if I start shooting, I would just get really, really unique photos. And now another example with really extreme conditions. It's a low light, it's rather dull light, and a lot of movement. And you can see that I can actually set the camera to track the ball. Then I can ask it to focus on it. And it just listens to me. It just keeps it focused, even when the ball is thrown. And I can just track it and I can shoot under that really, really terrible conditions. So I don't really think we need any more examples. This is just really interesting. One more function which really deserves attention is called raw burst. I will record a special video about that, but just to give you a summary. What it does is that it gives you a chance to overcome the headaches connected to the fact that when you shoot, you end up with hundreds, perhaps thousands of RAWs, and it's just really painful to wade through them. So when you turn on that regime, raw burst, it just actually creates one huge file from which you can easily, on computer or directly in the camera, select the one you would like to use, either and to save it in RAW or in JPEG. And it also has a great function called pre-recording, which means that if you half press shutter button, it starts recording. And when you push it to take the shots, you get some extra shots recorded before you actually did it. I hope it does not sound too confusing, but you can see it here. Just whatever happens before that little mark was recorded in the pre-recording and can be really useful in situations like this.
So what should we actually know about the camera? What really makes it amazing option is, I believe, a part of its speed and the focusing systems, is that it's very easy to set anything you would like to set. There are three key rollers, which I really like the roller which is just here at that part of camera, and it's actually used by me to set ISO. I set ISO, obviously I can, in that case, because I'm in the aperture priority, I can set aperture here by the other roller. And of course, there is the third roller, which I would be using for exposure compensation, as might be quite useful in that freezing weather here in Prague. Then we have that really useful MFN button. And when I press it, and you can see that I am setting what I want to set. Let's say that I'd like to set the white balance, so I just touch it and I use this roller to set it to the level I'd like to use, or I can just use that button, that roller to change the metering systems. What typically I would be using this for is a quick way to change the autofocus, to change which way of using the points would I be using. Again, it's quite useful, you can see it here. Or when we are speaking about that option, there is another way how to do it. There is another way how to quickly set what you want to set, and it's by using that button in the corner of the back side. I just push it, and then again by pushing MFN, I quickly select what I want to select. So again, it might sound like a detail, but really, honestly, believe me that this is so amazing how quick you can set all these things up. Obviously, then the key advantage of this camera would be the ability to focus in very different conditions. You can see that I'm just using the very basic option, but it just works great. And even in that case, you can see that it is able to detect the eye of the wooden fish. I can combine it with the set button. If I push set button, let's see what happens. It's actually tracking what I want to track. So I would focus on that lamp and push set, and it's there, it's set. You can see this, and it's so amazing for different things which they would be moving. And I have to admit that I was really impressed by what that camera can do. So again, we can set the focusing systems on, and we can shoot without any issues.
And if you are now tired by all these technical details, I invite you to spend a couple of minutes with me walking in my city of Prague, which, well, is not as great in December like perhaps in May, but still you can feel the touch of that amazing city. And what I just like to do with you, just to, well, give you a chance to see some shots taken with this camera. And I should probably note, and we can see it on that shot, is that I was just using Canon RF 24 to 105mm with aperture 4. Why it really matters is that photographers can be sometimes quite suspicious about that so-called universal zooms, but I was actually quite surprised because the results are good and very decent, so to say, as you can see, for instance, on that little example. So just do not be afraid of that lens. Obviously, it would not be my choice. I would typically be using some prime lenses. Let us go back to the streets of Prague with these examples of what to expect. And yes, this is probably one of the most famous views of any city in the world, Charles Bridge and Prague Castle. Well, I believe that that camera would really be used a lot as a great travel or family camera, and I believe after that bit of reviewing that would be a really good choice. Flying birds in action, and these photos are not exciting from the photography point of view, but I just included them because, again, I was just pointing autofocusing systems towards it and it did the rest, and I still can't really technically understand how does the camera do it, but well, it is really handy. And if you just want to take some very quick action-packed photos, you just won't be disappointed. And some more photos from the streets of Prague, some more animals and statues and Charles Bridge, obviously. What also matters is what to expect from this camera when the light goes down. And again, the Christmas time is good for testing that. So let's jump to Old Town Square here in Prague, and again you can see as the blue hours is approaching, everything is, you know, turning into blue mode, that well, the results are again exactly how you would expect it from a brand new camera like this. Please do not forget that blue hour is just one of the most amazing parts of the day, meaning that even if you just lose your daylight, you can still shoot amazing stuff like I did here. And if you are interested about ISO, here are some samples. Let's go to the most extreme one. This would be the maximum ISO of 204/800. Obviously, you would not be using that in a real life. The levels of noise are just too high. But in fact, if you just jump to 100/400, which is here, I have to say, well, obviously, yes, there is noise, but under certain conditions, you can use even that very, very high levels. Obviously, if you just go down to the area of, say, 20,000, it would be much better. And one more excursion to a city of Hradec Králové in east of Bohemia. I hope you are not bored by all these blue hours photos. The reason why I want to take you here is another action example. So let's go to a Christmas concert. Why am I here? Well, the reason is that I just want you to show these rather extreme photos taken in a very extreme situations. The light is very low, so I have to push ISO to, well, reasonably high levels. But still, if I just crop that shots, if I just crop these photos, you can see that the level of details is very, very decent, very, very good, and at the same time ISO it's not that extreme. I believe this is another great example of low light performance of this camera. And some more Christmas mood photos. And for last couple of shots, let's go to the mountains of Moravia, a Christmas tree and mountain donkey not far away from Slovakian border. And a cat which has appeared in many reviews you might have seen in the past. The result is that, well, she just likes being photographed, and we can see that again the levels of details are really good. Since we started with a dog, let us close that photo block with one more dog called Amba here in the snow. And well, you can take this as another example that camera just would not let you down. Obviously, Canon R6 Mark II will probably be used also as a great tool to record videos. And I have to admit, I'm not a big specialist in that area, so please do not expect me to give you some really deep thoughts about the video capabilities of that camera. So the only thing I can do is just to show you a couple of examples recorded in 4K in 25 frames per second, and it's up to you to see if you can see something. But I believe the results are just simply very good as well. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope you liked at least some bits of this video, and I wish you good luck. I am Jan from Prague, Czech Republic.